How to overcome procrastination, recognizing the invisible abyss. The mind closes like an old, creaking door, and behind it dwells a continuous echo of guilt that tightens the chest. You feel the weight of an unfulfilled commitment, the heat of anxiety rising in your throat whenever you think about the postponed task. With each moment you choose not to act, emptiness grows and echoes the silent question, why don't I start? This echo resonates on your skin, in your pulse, in your suppressed sigh, and in the stillness of inner silence, the invisible abyss unfolds, showing how much postponement has the power to drain energy, to tear the fabric of your purpose. Holding procrastination between your fingers is like holding a handful of sand. Each grain escapes, slides, disappears. Seneca would remind us that the day unravels like a disintegrating handful, and as we stand on the edge of time, we watch the hours slip away. Each falling grain, one by one, carries dreams, projects, promises silently made to oneself. With each escaping grain of sand, an opportunity vanished, leaving your hand empty and your heart heavy with the feeling of not being enough. And in this repeated gesture lies the secret wound of one who knows the value of every second but lets it slip away in hesitation. Epictetus whispers that what holds you back reveals where firmness was lacking. When desire meets fear, the doubt that paralyzes is born. You find yourself suspended between the will to advance and the fear of failure. And it is in this space of inertia that procrastination establishes its silent reign. Recognizing this sticking point is accepting an invitation to inner vigilance, to understand where fear has built walls and where will has wavered. It's looking inward and discovering that often it's the loss of firmness that creates the loophole for postponement to dominate. How many promises have you buried in the valley of inertia without even hearing the sound of your own abandonment? Each unfulfilled promise becomes a shadow that extends within you, shadowing the clarity that could illuminate the path. Inviting yourself to reflect on these silent vows is the first step to reclaiming them. By facing the invisible abyss, you don't turn away from it, you cross it, feeling the cold of doubt dissipate in the urgency of action. And emerging from that valley, you carry with you the gentle flame that transforms hesitation into movement, fear into firmness, the hidden wound of procrastination. When the deadline approaches, an invisible chill runs down your spine and emptiness settles in your chest like a shadow growing in silence. You feel your heart tighten as if the air escapes through the tangle of fears that sustain the postponement. Every minute that passes without action leaves an even deeper scar, a mark you don't see, but which weighs on your whole body. This emptiness echoes in every breath, recalling the distant sound of a drum beating relentlessly within you. There's a shame that comes even before trying, a muffled embarrassment deep in your throat. You imagine yourself facing the task, but disappear internally as if occupying someone else's body. I was there, but I didn't exist. Quiet voice, not wanting to be heard. This shame transforms into a knot that tightens the diaphragm and steals the rhythm of your hours, creating a space where movement ceases and fear begins to speak for you, solidifying the silent vow not to try again. Behind this habit of postponing, there's a longing for clarity and meaning that whispers softly, almost swallowed by guilt. Procrastination reveals an unmapped desire, a yearning for a purpose that hasn't yet found its form. You postpone because deep down you seek meaning, a reason to stabilize each step. And when you connect with this longing, you discover that the emptiness of postponement can be the door to an encounter with what truly matters. The echo of your desire begins to pulsate again, showing that the hidden wound is not just an obstacle, but also a sign that there is something valuable to be discovered within you. The myth of the perfect tomorrow. We believe that dawn will bring a moment free of noise, a tomorrow that will stretch out calm and without distract. But this illusion lulls us into a constant wait. With every step we postpone, we carry the weight of a future that never arrives in the exact form we imagine. This waiting becomes a fog that covers the present, making every second insipid, as if life were waiting to refine itself until the ideal moment that deep down doesn't exist. Today slips away in hesitation, and the perfect tomorrow always remains beyond the horizon of our hands. Seneca reminds us with his firm voice that it is not that we lack time, but that we waste every grain of attention spent on the belief in a tomorrow free of obligations is a grain taken from the present that pulsates within our reach. In these hours, we feel the silent rush of wanting to live a full day without realizing that it is now, at this exact moment, that the raw material for our achievements reside. Recognizing the waste is to break the bubble of illusion and give meaning back to the hours we already have. When the finitude of today is revealed, a gentle urgency arises that burns without guilt, a gentle reminder that now is a gift to be used, not a burden to be carried. Feeling this urgency is to perceive the warmth of the moment, the texture of time in our hand, and to decide without external command that the first step is worth more than waiting for an imaginary scenario. It is in this silent decision that the myth of the perfect tomorrow unravels, giving way to the free movement that is born when we receive today as the true starting point. When relief becomes a trap, there's an almost hypnotic relief in scrolling through a feed, in the quick click on messages that require no effort. Immediate comfort arrives like a soft embrace that numbs the urgency to act. But this embrace is a sticky cloak, traps the body and mind in a bubble of distraction. You trade the torch of purpose for irritating sparks of momentary pleasure, and with each distraction consumed, the impulse to refocus weakens, giving way to a lethargy disguised as rest. In this voluntary numbness, the mind becomes hostage to small reliefs that cover the original discomfort, and the promise of doing it later extends like a seductive invitation to forget. Stoicism reminds us that self-control is active presence, not stupor. It's keeping the flame lit even in the face of contrary wind. When you confuse relief with freedom, you end up planting invisible chains that wrap around the desire to create, to produce, to live with purpose. And then the soft question arises, echoing in the silence. Are you avoiding the task or avoiding the feeling it awakens? This feeling could be fear, doubt, frustration, an old shadow that cripples your step even before it happened. Recognizing this shadow is looking inward with compassion, perceiving the discomfort that the act of starting brings to the surface, and embracing that discomfort as part of the path. By facing the emptiness hidden behind the search for relief, you open a crack through which genuine action can finally penetrate. 2-minute ritual against the abyss. There's a breath of attention that emerges the instant the impulse to flee arises. A gesture that takes only 2 minutes but can dissolve hours of hesitation. In this brief interval, you breathe consciously, feel the air flow through your nostrils, and observe your whole body relax, as if every cell awakens to the present moment. 2 minutes of gentle presence break the spell of procrastination, creating an internal space where action finds fertile ground to sprout. This simple gesture, breathing, feeling, waiting, acts as a portal. The clock ticks 60 seconds, then 120, and the impulse to flee transforms into concentrated curiosity. Neuroscience shows us that this pause activates the prefrontal cortex, bringing clarity and reducing the amygdala's excessive alert. It is in this interval that fear loses its strength, the mind regains its own command, and the postponable task becomes simply the next natural step in your movement. When night falls, there's another flash reverberating in the silence, the recording of the first thought that arises about what's pending, writing without expectations, just letting the pen glide over the paper or your fingers touch the keyboard gives meaning back to what seemed forgotten. This silent act anticipates a fresh start at dawn, aligning desire and intention before the day clashes with distraction. Thus, in less time than a short song, you transform hesitation into impulse, silence into clarity, and postponement forever. The metaphor of the anchored ship. Imagine an immense ship held in the bay by thick cables, each strand tightened by fears, insecurities, and expectations you carry. This ship is your will to act, but no matter how powerful the vessel, it won't set sail until the cables are released. Each cable represents a procrastination trigger, the fear of making mistake, the perfectionism that paralyzes, the hidden exhaustion that solidifies fatigue. And as long as these cables persist, your purpose remains anchored, trapped at the edge of a port you didn't plan to build. Observing the ship this way, you realize you don't need to break all the cables at once. You can choose just one, the one that seems least resistant, and cut it with compassionate firmness. Perhaps it's the fear of making mistakes that leans the bow against the water, or the perfectionism that dulls the impulse to depart. Choosing a cable means taking command of the helm, feeling the wind scarf touch your face instead of hearing the echo of doubt stuck to solid ground. This choice, simple as it may be, ignites the flame of freedom, for it demonstrates that control over your blockages is ultimately in your hand. Each cut cable gives movement to the ship. The hull creaks, the sails flutter, and a new direction emerges in the water. The act of letting go is a gesture of gentle courage. No great fanfare is needed to unleash your action, but rather quiet determination to accept your own strength. And upon releasing the first cable, you feel an unprecedented lightness in your body, as if the air penetrates deeper, making space for the ship to finally move towards the horizon you chose. Which cable can you release today so your ship can finally set sail? This question reverberates in your soul like a silent bell, calling you to observe where you are trapped and to decide with tenderness and firmness that it's no longer worth remaining captive. When the first cable is broken, the inner tide begins to shift, aligning your will with the flow of the present, and then each subsequent step becomes part of a journey you yourself chose, navigating the vast sea of now towards the purpose that pulsates within you, raising the sails of now. Seneca reminds us that no wind favors him who has no destined port. These words emerge like a gentle breeze sweeping across the deck of your newly freed ship, inviting you to define a clear starting point at this instant by choosing a course for today. Each decision gains lightness and purpose, ceasing to be a burden and becoming the sail that catches the breath of your own will. In this space, time stops slipping through your fingers and converts into the fuel that propels your journey. Epictetus whispers that freedom is born when we firmly plant our feet in the present, not when we anticipate destinations yet untraced. There is power in the now, in the simple act of adjusting the bow of your being forward, even without knowing all the coordinates. The silent responsibility of acting here and now is the anchor that prevents the ship from oscillating between doubts and endless remake. It is in this gesture of conscious surrender to the moment that procrastination loses its throne, and then in the calm rhythm of your heart, the silent victory emerges. Every 2 minutes of courage transform into miles sailed towards the purpose that pulsate within you. Each cut cable reveals the immensity of the inner sea where your strength resides. If you could only release one cable now, what would be the first step your future self will thank you for?